All right, the February 13th, 2013 meeting of the Missouri City Planning and Zoning Commission is called to order. We have a quorum here tonight. We've got 4 people missing. You've got those listed. Moving on to agenda item number 3, the reading of the minutes. Do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes as presented?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on those minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as presented. Agenda item number 4, 4A, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, training at Building Professional Institute. On February the 4th of this month, Jennifer Thomas, Ramesh Anand, and myself attended a meeting on that day at the Building Institute, which was in a hotel area across the street from Hobby Airport. And it was about a 3 or 4 day session, and we only went to the first day involving planning. And that was discussed during that meeting, during the morning session, and we stayed all day. Actually, what planning is, why it's important, what it does for us, how we go about using effective planning, the history of planning, etc. And then we broke for lunch, and that afternoon we attended the second meeting, which covered the land use controls for green development and ethics as it applies to planning. And they explained all that to us and why the ethics, etc., was so important, because we were dealing with the public and we're dealing with our clients, etc. It's a professional part here, and we need to address it properly. And that's what our seminar section was all about. If you look at the handout in your packet, take a look at that, go over it, see what you think about it. I thought after I got through the day that it was time well spent. And Gary, I appreciate the fact that we had an opportunity to go, and that your budget took care of that for us.
The appreciation should be expressed to City Council and the City Manager, Assistant City Managers, and Finance Director for having those funds available in the budget. Well,
we got one of our assistant managers here tonight, our city managers. Scott, we appreciate it.
We'll send you to anything you want. Never mind, I won't say that.
I was getting ready to sign up for that Hawaiian training session. No.
Send him on one of those cruise ships, right?
There's one in the Gulf right now.
There you go. Jennifer, thank you also for putting all the stuff together. I appreciate that very much. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 4B. The commissioners, do y'all have any reports? No. Anyone? Okay, moving on to 5 staff reports. Director of Development Services.
No report.
All right, B, planning representative. Jennifer? None? No. All right, Public Works.
No report.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, the public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to step to our podium and address anything which is not on our agenda for tonight? If you would like to do that, please be our guest. If you do, there will be no comments made by any of the commissioners up here, as the law says we cannot do that. So if anybody would like to step up, step forward. Okay, seeing no one, moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the consent agenda. 7A, consider approval of a preliminary plat for a watermark at Sienna Plantation, Section 2. 7B, consider approval of a final report for Shadow Glen at Riverstone, Section 4. Do I hear a motion that we
the
approve?
consent agenda.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Before there's action, I'm bothered by a bit of the language. I think there's a typo. The Shadow Glen at Riverstone is section
5 is preliminary.
5,
Section
yeah.
5, and it is a final plat, not
Yes,
a
it's
final
a final
report.
plat,
Correct.
and that needs to be shown
Would-
on the plat.
Would the maker of the motion change the motion to
I
correct the
amend the
number
motion
and
to
word?
include the correction to item number 7B.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that change? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved as presented with the change. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8, Lakeshore Harbor. 8A, consider approval of a conceptual plan for Lakeshore Harbor.
This is a revised conceptual plan. The initial concept plan for Lakeshore Harbor was approved back in 2001. They continue residential development out there and have changed some of the boundaries of some of the sections, added some sections to it, and have increased the number of lots to about 815 from what was previously approved as 795. Staff's comments are listed in the report, but staff does recommend conditional approval for this revised concept plan.
Okay, I have a couple of questions here. I'm really not sure how many lots we're really talking about here. We're talking about 884, and then this Ventinian Village section shown as 109. You subtract that out, that leaves 775. And then one area up here shows 815, another area shows 818.
Yeah, we are talking about the subject plat. The lot count on the plan is 815. The applicant put 818 on the application, but I believe that was a typo on the application. The number of lots that are reflected in that section C, the informational section, have to do with the parkland dedication that was approved for the original concept plan for Lakeshore Harbor, and Venetian Village, that was a separate subdivision that was planned at the time. And so that's a note for the applicant that with the increase of number of lots in Lakeshore Harbor, if they exceed the number that were previously approved in the parkland dedication, that they will have to dedicate additional parkland to reflect that additional number of lots.
Okay, as we vote on this here tonight, how many lots are we voting on right here, right now?
We should be voting on 815 for the revised concept plan for Lakeshore Harbor.
815. Okay,
Which is 20 more than the original.
right, yes, I agree with you there. Okay,
Make a motion, we approve this conceptual plan.
Second.
is there a second to that? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on agenda item 8A? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, the agenda item 8A is approved. Okay, 8B, consider approval of a preliminary plat for Lakeshore Harbor, Section 5.
And this is the latest section out of Lakeshore Harbor that's reflected on the concept plan that was just previously conditionally approved. This is for 80 lots, Section 5 as stated. And the conditions that staff has called out are in the report, and staff does recommend conditional approval of this preliminary plat.
Okay, the 80 lots is correct here, too.
There are 80 lots in this section.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve this preliminary plat.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I noticed in here there's under section A4, please indicate manhole depths. Any depths exceeding city requirement will require variance to be approved prior to the final approval. Have we gotten anything more on this? Have you received anything at all?
Normally, we do not receive that to construction plan phase, if we can address it then.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, do I hear a motion?
You have
All
a
right.
motion and a second.
Who made the second? Okay. Any further discussion on agenda item 8B? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, agenda item 8B is approved. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9, public hearing and consideration for a planned development district. Public hearing to receive comments for or against a request to rezone an approximate 6-acre tract of land from LC3 Retail District to PD Planned Development District to allow for the development of an age-restricted multifamily development or to allow for uses permitted within LC3 Retail District. The subject site is located north of Trammell Fresno Road and the Oakwick Forest residential subdivision on the south side of State Highway 6.
Okay, this is a development that is similar to what you've seen before, one that's currently under construction at Cartwright Road, near Cartwright Road and FM 1092. The Huntington Senior Retirement Residential Community. And let me say, on the concept plan, the conceptual plan that was submitted for this, it does show 131 units. It's actually 132 units planned, with an additional one-bedroom apartment than what's listed on the table there on the concept plan. There are different deviations that are outlined in the report that staff is recommending approval for. One specific request of the applicant that staff is not recommending approval for is the request to retain the LC3 zoning designation, which is the current zoning designation for the property. This is a request to rezone it from LC3 to the PD to allow for the senior retirement community, and staff recommends not approving multifamily in LC3 within the PD. For it to be multifamily if multifamily is what's going to be developed there. So that is staff's recommendation on that request. All of the other recommendations, let me show you the concept plan and as well as some architectural renderings for the project. This is the concept plan. Trammell Fresno would be towards the bottom of the site with their access off of Trammell Fresno. It would be one single building housing the 132 units, a 3-story building. Highway 6 is towards the top of the page, but there would be commercial pad sites between this property and Highway 6. We have a Discount Tire that is planning to go just north of this property near Highway or with frontage off of Highway 6. And so this would create a buffer between the commercial uses as you go towards the Oakwick Forest residential subdivision. It would be a gated community with restricted access. They are proposing a wood fence around the perimeter of the apartment units with a gate at the entrance into the apartment complex. Some of the deviations that we're looking at are similar to the other development just because of the type of development this is. We're looking at, based on the number of units, allowing a slightly denser development than what our densest multifamily use district would allow, and it's one unit denser than what we would allow under an MF2 multifamily district. So what they're roughly providing is 22 units per the acre for their site. It's a total 6-acre property. And then there's other deviations as listed, allowing the 132 units in a single building, and then the orientation of the building. There's also some deviations that staff recommends approval for, similar to the other development, having a six attached car garage as opposed to our limitation on four, no more than 4 units. We are recommending approval for that design. And on this plan, you can see the apartment complexes are along the perimeter of the development, which would be inside of the fence, and then also designed to complement and match the primary residential structure. And then there's other deviations that are listed. Another one that I will note is the reduction in parking, and I think we talked about that with the last development. The same request here because of the nature of the type of facility, a senior retirement community. I did provide in the packet some information that the applicant had provided on what their parking ratios have been for other similar developments. And so staff is recommending approval to allow them to provide 1.4 parking spaces per unit, which results in I think 195 parking spaces.
184 is what.
184 parking spaces. And then here are some renderings of what the complex would look like. Our architectural standards would apply. We did not conduct an architectural design review with this application, and so all of our multifamily architectural standards would apply. One note that we did place in the report for the applicant is if the roofing, the visible roofing material, if a deviation is being requested to that, our report right now does not reflect that deviation. And so if there is a request to use shingles or another residential type of roofing material, then the applicant would need to request that because we don't have that reflected currently in this report. But all other architectural standards would apply. The use of brick, stone, stucco, masonry on the exterior, articulation, not just a single elevation. So they appear to comply with that, but we will assess that if this is approved at a later stage in the project. Are there any questions?
I'd like to make a couple of comments here. I think this is a terrific looking project. And not only Missouri City itself, but all the residents and so forth that live here can certainly be proud of this when this is completed. I have to agree with the recommendation from the staff regarding the LC3 zoning. And my thinking about that would be that LC3 could become a crutch in there, or the fact that, well, if this thing doesn't make as a senior retirement community, we always got this to fall back on. So this thing needs to be a senior project. If for some reason it can't be, then the owners of that property can always go back and have this thing rezoned to meet whatever is comparable at that particular point in time. And so I think the excluding of the LC3 is a very, very, very good thing. The rest of this thing looks great to me. As this is a public hearing, first of all, is the applicant here?
And as the applicant walks, I do want to note as well, as you all have become more familiar with the land use plan and the comp plan, this site is not consistent with the land use plan, so this would require an amendment to the land use plan before approval.
Okay.
That'll be no problem to handle that. Lawrence?
Good evening. My name is Lawrence Turner with Kelly Collusion Associates, and I'm also here this evening with the developer, Mark Muzameski, with the M Group, and we do appreciate the commission taking time to review this application. We do not have a problem with regards to the PD and not allowing the LC3. Okay. That comment came up because of some different conversations, but we're okay with just doing a straight PD. We're good with that. The only deviation, I know we would use shingled roofs. So we would do that because we're doing that on the other one as well. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we're good with the comments from staff, and we'd like to move forward with it. And I'll entertain any questions that anyone else may have with respect to this project.
Anyone?
Yeah, and just to note, staff wouldn't have an issue with the use of composition shingles, because just like Laren said, we've seen the product that they've used on the one that's under construction now. So we would not have an issue with them having that as a deviation.
Well, as I said, Lawrence, it's a good-looking project.
Thank you.
Y'all did well.
Did you go and meet with the HOA?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yes, they actually had their annual meeting, and we went and met with them and had one of the council members there, as well as city staff, assistant city manager. All of those guys were there, not on behalf of our project. I'd like to say they were, but they were all there as well, and it was received well by the community. We addressed any questions or concerns they had, and everything went well with it.
Okay. As this is a public hearing, is there anyone in the audience that would like to step to the podium and address this project? I do hear a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
Make a motion, we submit to city council with a positive recommendation.
A second to that?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this project?
Does the motion include the request that Mr. Turner made for composition shingles?
Staff,
Yeah.
staff report. Well, the way I read the report was that was still, hadn't been reviewed yet, right?
Well,
So do I need to include it in there?
I would prefer that it stated
Okay.
that it's included.
Yeah, so I'm in the motion to include the comment around the composition shingles and also staff's recommendation to remove the underlying zoning.
Okay. And for clarification too, one of the deviations on the fencing. And let me find it. Okay. Under landscaping regulations, staff's recommendation on the fencing, the wood fence, is to require visual breaks or architectural treatments such as pilasters or columns every 300 feet, at a minimum in 300 feet intervals, which is what we require for community fencing, perimeter fencing around subdivisions. And so would that be part of the commission's motion to include that?
I took it that it would be.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's in the report, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, who made the motion? You did? Who made the second? Okay, any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, agenda item number 9 is approved with the changes. Okay. Agenda item number 10, public hearing and consideration of a final report on a zoning text amendment relating to the unity of ownership requirement for planned developments.
Can we postpone that?
Yes, I'm going to do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Gary, we want to take and postpone this until next month because I want all the commissioners to have a chance to review this before we do any voting on this.
And it is not our intention to put a stack of paper in front of you at the meeting for you to have to digest and understand in the 5 or 10 minutes before the meeting, or for staff to try to explain that to you. Staff will endeavor very hard not to have that happen again. We had it on this item and on the next item. The next item I don't think is as critical as this item. I would suggest that what appears to be voluminous changes are substantially reorganization. It separated what had been one thought in the prior ordinance or in the existing ordinance. It separates creation and amendment into two separate sections. Therefore, you it looks like there's a lot of new when there's not a lot of new. And the bulk of the ordinance is what you have seen previously at the preliminary report stage. However, as it was being reviewed, staff determined that it would be improved by changing the terms development site plan and concept plan into a single term and making some other modifications around that. There were some other clerical, pretty much clerical problems with it, misspellings that were cleaned up also. I understand Commission's desire to have more time to look at it, and it's my belief that you will see exactly the same language at the next meeting if you table it until that meeting. There will not be any further changes, so what you get tonight will be what you see in a month.
Well, I don't have a problem with that part. I appreciate your comments. My only thought here was when I got to looking at this, and I came in here about 20 minutes to, 25 minutes to digest this thing, et cetera, and then have 4 of our commissioners absent tonight due to circumstances beyond their control. I just feel like it's better to table this thing until next month so all of the commission has a chance to get over this, because this is important. And I can see the reason why that we need to make changes anyway, because one individual can stop the development of something like this. And we don't want that, because you might hinder a large area as a result of that and cost us money in the long run. So I think we need to pull that. Do we have to have a motion to pull this?
You should have a motion, a second, and a vote to table it to the next meeting.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we
I
take?
make the motion to table it to the next
A
meeting.
second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
I
that
have
we-
one more question.
Okay.
Do we have any projects that are impending currently that really, really needs this to happen before the next 30 days?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't think it will hamper anyone
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
I didn't think we did have, but
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
the motion? Are we having to repost that there's going to be a public hearing?
Yes.
Are we starting over, or can we have a public hearing and then not have a public
You
hearing next
could,
time?
you could have the public hearing tonight and then have final consideration of the final report at the next meeting.
I would suggest that we make that motion, that we
That would save
conclude our,
publication.
Right.
If you held the public hearing tonight, that would save another publication expense.
okay.
so can we withdraw the,
I withdraw.
so we're not going to table the whole item, we're just going to table the final vote, but we are going to conclude the public hearing on this topic tonight. Did we already close the public hearing?
We haven't started it yet.
We're not going to vote on anything tonight.
Well, let's vote on having, we're going to have the public hearing.
Yes, that's
And then we'll vote
fine.
on closing it, and
Yeah.
then we'll take up your motion right after that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Is it, any further discussion on that?
Nope.
You're okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay.
Well, wait, we
Well,
have
we
to have the
need-
public hearing first.
Yeah, we just have to have the public hearing real quick.
We don't
Eric,
need
did
to
you
vote.
want to say a
Which
couple
you've
words on the matter? Is there any?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, is
second
that
it.
okay, there you go. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Okay.
Now you make your
Now.
motion.
Now you make the motion.
Okay. I make a motion that we table it till the next meeting in March.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Anybody? All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, this item is tabled until next month.
Same thing for the next one.
You're just so efficient.
That's right, well,
Maybe
you
save a
got it
tree or
right,
two, huh?
see? All right, agenda item number 11, consideration of the approval of a final report on an annual report concerning the comprehensive plan. Gary?
It's only 7:35. I can read this to you, but I'd rather not. Our comprehensive plan requires P&Z to review the progress toward implementation of the comprehensive plan. Okay, technically it says every year. It's been 3 years since it was adopted. This is the first time we've brought you the review. So it's a bit longer than what you will see next year. But if you look at it, I think you will see the city, through the developers and through the actions of the city and the elected officials, have been making strides toward the goals in the comprehensive plan. Land use and character, the first one is a more cohesive city, and our new city center and our recreation and tennis center, I think, are the crown jewels of our accomplishments on that. I can't wait to see what happens next. But we have other things in progress. We're participating in a bicycle pedestrian path study through HGAC. We've increased funding for work on sidewalks and sidewalk rehabilitation. We thought we'd have the Oyster Creek Bridge open by the meeting, but rainfall got in the way over on El Dorado. It's March 1st or the first week in March?
Tuesday it should be moved. But the bridge will be open in March.
Bridge will be open in March, and you'll see that connection. Decorative traffic signals and monumentation along Gessner, and other beautification efforts, that out in front of City Hall jumped to mind. Construction of the Oyster Creek Trail to connect under the Cartwright Road Bridge, and it connects all the way to Sugar Land. The conversion of the Executive 9 course and rehabilitation of the El Dorado course. Been a lot of activity toward these things. To move beyond a bedroom community, you have Lakeview Business Park and the industrial development on South Cravens and South Gessner. We have the new Hampton Point Assisted Living Facility, the Huntington that's being constructed over on 1092. Focus on neighborhood integrity and redevelopment as the community matures. I will call out our continued emphasis, very strong emphasis on code enforcement to preserve the character and the quality of those neighborhoods. Public and private development and design practices that encourage resource conservation and protection. We have a new sign ordinance.
Really?
You might remember that. Pulled a few teeth to get there, but you got there.
There we go.
Water conservation plan, architectural standards. Y'all don't know about it, but Bob Graff showed me pictures while Benny Keith was under construction. They dug a huge hole on their property. They put the black plastic boxes down, then they put a black mat across it, put the dirt back on top of it. The best picture is you have these stacks and stacks of boxes, and so they can take their water and recycle it. So they're not buying all the water all the time. But with the big dozer sitting on top of it, leveling the dirt out, there are some amazing things they can do. Millis hasn't built yet, but y'all approved Millis with some alternate standards, the green hedge or the green fencing, and other more low-intensity development. So we're moving toward that. We're willing to accept design based on if they can provide us with design that, I'm sorry, it's low impact? Low impact. I'm sorry, I'm from Baytown. I don't know all these concepts. But we have that. So we see the push coming for those, the desire to use those. We want people to be able to utilize them. And if it saves putting concrete pipe in the ground and having to deal with that in the future, the community's better off. Quality design and community appearance. Okay, I've already talked about those. Sign ordinance, architectural standards, code enforcement. Growth capacity to help the community continue to grow. The surface water treatment plant, our groundwater reduction plan, where I don't know that anybody's ever pulled it off before, 26 MUDs, 26, 27 governmental entities agreeing to participate and cooperate together to conserve groundwater and go to surface water as need be. Consolidation of the Mustang Bayou service area so that that works more efficiently for the development in that part of town. Orderly growth of the community and efficient expansion of the infrastructure. We're continuing to strategically use MUDs to provide utility service so that the city does not have to incur that indebtedness and incur those obligations to provide the utility service. Capital improvement plan improvements for the Mustang Bayou service area for water and wastewater. We've expanded the steep bank, flat bank wastewater treatment facility. Development patterns and targeted growth areas that are consistent with the city's service capacities and desired community forming character. We have new floodplain maps that lessen the impact of the floodplain in our community. Again, steep bank, flat bank, wastewater plant. And then we have residential developments along the Adams Ditch that, with improvements that provide added capacity. Continued development, as you know, Riverstone and Sienna Plantation. You saw continued development on the south side of town on your agenda tonight. Parks and recreation. This is why you have a new one at your place. They came in a little bit late with it, but you can see what they have done in the parks. It's a recognized system. It wins awards regularly. There are leisure opportunities, pavilions for people to rent, and the spray ground that was installed at Hunters Glen Park. Lawrence left. I was going to turn around and look at him when I said that, but I don't.
There he is.
No, he's standing outside the glass. I can see him now. That was a cooperative effort to get that there, if I'm not mistaken.
Blue Ridge.
Does Blue Ridge want to brag about, oh, why don't you cover the parks area and what all parks has done to implement the, you can put on that hat, to implement the comprehensive plan?
Just have that conversation.
I was thinking about the spray park that had come in, that was a cooperative effort and has helped in our recreation opportunities, but you can see parks, and as all of you know, Lawrence is chairman of the Parks Board.
There have been several projects that we've had that the Parks Department has gone. The one item that he was referring to, Blue Ridge West and the City of Missouri City partnered on putting up a spray park, which has been well received here in the city. That's probably one of the most active parks here in the city right now. I always mess with people and say, we bust them in over there now to use that facility, and it's just been a great asset to the community, and it kind of revitalized that area and instilled some pride in the community and in the citizens over there in that area. We've also got several other projects that have gone on, and really I would kind of defer to our Parks Director to bring all those to you, but we've done a pretty good deal and have a pretty good deal going on over there.
In mobility, intelligent transportation system, that is the communicative traffic signals so we can keep moving through town. The thoroughfare plan's been adopted, and I will bundle these together. The plans that are in place to extend the Fort Bend Toll Road down to Sienna Parkway, the frontage roads to Sienna Ranch Road, completing Sienna Ranch Road so that it connects from Highway 6 down to Sienna Parkway, Sienna Springs extension over to LJ Parkway, and now I've left Missouri City, but LJ Parkway connecting with University and University connecting all the way around to 59. The hike and bike trails that studies are involved, the trail system that's been in place in the city, the park and ride that's been put in place down at the Fort Bend Town Center. All of these things help us move people around the community.
Gary, I just want to take a moment to say that also, to piggyback on that, that the city's traffic management operations group recently just completed pretty much the majority of the flashing yellow arrow signals just recently throughout the city, and that they were recognized at state level at the Texas Public Works Association event just recently in February. They won an award for an in-house project. So we're very proud of that, and that's part of this helping us to complete the comprehensive plan in mobility.
Sounds good.
One of the goals of the comprehensive plan is to make sure the roadways accommodate all users. We're moving toward, in our plans to redevelop Gregory Lane, complete streets, if you're familiar with that term. Streets are designed to accommodate cars, bicycles, pedestrians, so that they don't conflict with one another. And it is safe for all to be there. It's a different design pattern, but it may work better in our neighborhoods and make it a more livable, walkable community, although in August, I never am sure about walkable on the Gulf Coast. Thoroughfare plan update was one of the goals. 40% of the improvements designated as short-term, 0 to 5 years, in the 2011 thoroughfare plan have been implemented. What obstacles or problems do we have in implementation? Availability of raw water resources will challenge full implementation of the groundwater reduction plan. Proposed amendments. Y'all have considered proposed amendments dealing with the multifamily development along the Fort Bend Parkway. You may get to consider another one for the Huntington at Sienna that you saw tonight. And recommended actions. Recommended actions that I would encourage you to include in your report is recommend inclusion of projects in future bond proposals that will assist in the implementation of the comprehensive plan. For those members of the bond committee that is meeting, just ask that they keep the comprehensive plan in mind and let that assist them in helping to shape the projects.
Is that all you have to say on it?
That's it.
That's enough, isn't it?
It took too long.
Okay. We have a motion that we,
So I make a motion, we approve this as our final report and forward to City Council.
okay, what about the recommendation down here?
I take that as just a generic recommendation more than anything else, right?
Automatic.
Automatic.
There you go. Okay,
I have one more, well,
One
get your
question,
second.
go.
Go ahead and get your second, and then I'll ask.
no,
No
go.
second.
Okay. Are there any other recommendations besides, bond funds? That you could think?
I can give you the same blank look. I've stared at myself several times trying to figure this one out, and I could just see blank stare coming back from the computer screen.
Okay, who made the motion?
I did.
You did? You did the second? Okay, any further discussion on this? Anyone? John? You okay? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? The report goes forward. Gary, you did good.
Y'all did good. You got us through the meeting.
It is cold. And I'm normally
adjourned.
not a
Those
cold
flashing
person, but I'm
yellow
cold.
arrows,
That was free.
you're the same.